Stephen Hughes back here on National Sports Radio Station. It's been a while. I've been very busy. I'm doing sports on my own. I'm playing at Skyline College in San Bruno, California on the baseball team. So I've been sidetracked for the last few months, but I'm going to try to fit in a show once in a while, and this is going to be a new show, hopefully, that is consistent pro sports outlook, simply just shooting out the gate with some trending topics in sports, pretty much, with the major sports in baseball, in basketball, and in football. And the big news out of baseball with the MVP awards being announced, with the winners being Clayton Kershaw of the National League. Maybe a little controversy there, as should a pitcher win the MVP? Should they be stuck with their own award in the Cy Young? And then in the American League, we have Mike Trout, the unanimous winner and the youngest unanimous MVP winner in history. And then basketball, we'll go over and talk about the Warriors, their hot streak. We'll talk about the Grizzlies. They're getting on fire, especially their late comeback just coming in. About 15, 20 minutes ago, Memphis completed a 27-point comeback over the Kings. They beat them on an alley-oop with 0.3 seconds to go from the inbounds. It was incredible. They had to go to instant replay. New York said it was good. Cleared to go. It was a 111-110 victory for the Grizzlies. They are scorching hot right now. And they'll probably go up to the power rankings very soon. Derrick Rose. We'll have a little bit of talk about him. What's his deal? He's coming back now. He starts the year now. With lots of little injuries after a couple of huge injuries that have derailed his career and loss of forms. We'll talk about that. And then, wrap up the show, we'll talk about some football. We'll talk about the highly anticipated AFC North with, anything coming down to the last minute, with all four teams going above 500, but Cleveland, the Browns, out of all teams, out of that AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens winning the Super Bowl a few years ago, the Steelers surging with Big Ben, but then losing to the Jets last week. And then Cincinnati, they're in and out. They have a very inconsistent quarterback in Andy Dalton. But it's Cleveland with Brian Hoyer, who's been fairly consistent, not posting big numbers, but posting enough numbers to have Cleveland on top of the AFC North after Week 10. But the question begs, can Cleveland keep that? I'm going to talk about that and a lot more, or hopefully a little bit less, here on Pro Sports Outlook, here on Spreaker.com in affiliation with the National Sports Radio Station. And with that, let's start right out of the gate with the National League Most Valuable Player awarded to National League. Sorry, got a couple of distractions on hand, but Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers. A couple of dogs barking. They're barking because Clayton Kershaw, he's a pitcher. Why is he winning the National League Most Valuable Player award? And a pitcher has not won the NL MVP since 1968. Let's throw a little throwback here. The great Bob Gibson of the Cardinals back in the day. He was the last NL MVP award winner as a pitcher. And it begs the question, Clayton Kershaw, all props to him. I'm a guy from the Bay Area, but the question begs, why should a pitcher win? Why should a pitcher win the most valuable player? Clayton Kershaw putting up some great numbers as a pitcher. He won 21-4. With a 21-3 with a 1.77 ERA. He had 239 strikeouts, an incredible whip of 0.86. It's just astonishing. His numbers are just incredible. But again, basic question, Clayton Kershaw starting, pitchers just in general. If it depends though. Starting pitching is a bigger controversy. Starting pitchers play in 30 of 162 games in the season. That's less than 25% of the games. And then you have guys like Giancarlo Stanton or Giancarlo Stanton, who had a tremendous year up at the plate, and we'll be talking about him about trying to get some money very shortly. But his numbers were incredible. 288, 37 home runs, 105 RBIs. It was a race. It was a game. It was a race between those two guys, Stanton and Kershaw, who was going to win it. But it's a shame. Stanton put us up great numbers, but unfortunately, the injury that the hit by a pitch to the face cost him the season. It took him out. His last game was September 11th. So he missed, another 2-3 weeks of action, add another 3-4 home runs, and another 11 RBIs, and it begs the question: do you choose the pitcher, or you choose a 290 batter with 40 home runs and 11 and 15 RBI, 115 RBIs? It just begs the question. It's just more controversy on hand. If Stanton was healthy, if they disallowed pitchers being in the MVP conversation, but it's something that maybe Major League Baseball has to take care of, but I don't see it happening because it's MVP should be qualified for any player, including a pitcher, but we'll just see how it goes. And then Andrew McCutchen as well, he got third place. He received 271 points out of the point system they have for first, second, and third place with all the baseball writers and such. But Clayton Kershaw, hats off to him. He's a tremendous pitcher. He's at the apex of his career. We're seeing the best of the best right now without Clayton Kershaw. But again, it's Cy Young's, that's perfectly fine because it's a pitcher's award. They have their own award. But most valuable player, Giancarlo Stanton, Andrew McCutchen. McCutchen won it last year, but it's more deserving to a guy that plays 140, 150, and maybe every single game. It's extremely hard to do, for the last few decades or so, with so many games being played. But Giancarlo Stanton, Andrew McCutchen, more qualified guys because they play a lot more games than Kershaw. Even if Stanton got injured, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks before the season even ended, it's just a whole controversy in itself. But again, Kershaw, congratulations, but hopefully we'll have a more deserving position player win it next year. Before we get to Giancarlo Stanton and his contract talks, let's talk about the American League Most Valuable Player Award winner and Mike Trout. He is a unanimous 2014 American League Most Valuable Player Award winner. Trout finished second in the last couple of years in the MVP voting, and he's lost both times to Miguel Cabrera. Miguel Cabrera has been a beast in the last couple seasons, excluding this season. This season, he was lingered with a few injuries. He had a hamstring problem, quad issues. He ended the season 313, 25 home runs, 109 RBIs. Pretty good year, but his counterpart on that Tigers club in Victor Martinez, who just signed a re-signed with the Tigers with a big-time contract. He batted 335, 32 home runs, 103 RBIs. So obviously the more deserving player to be in the MVP talks, but really it wasn't that close really. Even though Mike Trout, his batting average did go down from his last couple of seasons. This year, 287, 36 home runs, 111 RBIs, a 561 slugging percentage, which is this is a guy that's going to be the next Derek Jeter, but I see him as more of a power hitter. This guy is going to be the next role model in baseball, the poster child. What the first person you see when you're talking about baseball, if you're Google baseball, you're going to see a guy like Mike Trout or Derek Jeter, even if he's retired. It's Mike Trout, leading the way now to make baseball what it is now. But this Angels club, Mike Trout, he's on a great team. I'm just, shooting off the mouth, but Mike Trout plays for a great team in the Angels. Great pitching. They're spending a lot of money on great players in general. Jared Weaver. He's starting to fade fade away from the picture of being, the ace that he was a few years ago. You have CJ Wilson. Also there you have Matt Shoemaker, who was in the Rookie of the Year conversation, but he was no match for Jose Abreu of the White Sox. But Shoemaker will definitely be the future of the Angels rotation once Weaver's time is over. And then position players, Josh Hamilton, he's faded big time. Mike Trout is leading the way in the outfield. You have Albert Pujols, who's he's staying consistent to his normal form that he's usually in. His batting average obviously is going to drop, but his power numbers are still pretty stable. And then but. I was really glad the Angels finally found the chemistry or found the little spark to get to the playoffs. But then losing to the Kansas City Royals, that was a huge surprise. That's something you'll see mostly out of the Sharks per se. The Sharks being the number one team in past Stanley Cup playoffs, and then they'll just blow it, and then eventually lose to the Stanley Cup champions. In this case, for the Angels, they lose to the Kansas City Royals, and then the Royals go on to win the American League pennant as they sweep the Orioles. So it's Mike Trout. He's deserving of being in the World Series. I believe that once Mike Trout is in the World Series, he will be he's going to be bigger than life, pretty much, or in the baseball community. He's going to be. He's going to be well respected. Look at Jeter. Jeter, he was a complete leader. He was a terrific player, and the reason why he's recognized so highly of, especially since he's retiring this year, is because of his success in the postseason and his World Series rings that he has won. So once Mike Trout, I'm not saying it's not saying Mike Trout individually, but the Angels. Once the Angels get it together and they maybe hopefully win a World Series for Trout, now right there, and Trout is going to be the next Derek Jeter. I'm saying Mike Trout's on path to be a next Jeter, but as of right now, that is not the case. The Cy Young winners, I'm not really going to be talking about. Clayton Kershaw, he won it. That's easy. Then Corey Kluber. I think he's a great pitcher, especially had a great second half of the season with a below 1.8 ERA. But I think Felix Hernandez was more deserving. Just comparing the numbers, Corey Kluber, he had a great year. He posted up some great games. He posted up probably one of the better games you've seen in the 2014 season. But Felix Hernandez, I think his numbers were a little bit better. But, controversy just continues around the baseball world. But let's go into hard numbers. Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins are trying to discuss a long-term contract. Supposedly what I heard from rumors and all, he's trying to get 12 years, $300 million. He's 25 years old. A 12-year contract will take him to age 37. Do you really think that Giancarlo Stanton will take all of that money to stay in Miami for a team that it has a bright future, but with him and Jose Fernandez, who's coming off Tommy John surgery, hopefully those two will be the dynamic duo from the pitching and the offensive standpoint to lead this Marlins team to the playoffs again. But if Giancarlo Stanton wants to play in the playoffs, if he wants a World Series ring, his short-term plan for the Marlins don't involve the World Series at all. They involve the playoffs at most. And this team, it has a bright future, but Giancarlo Stanton, I feel like, lots of players are very committed to staying where they started. But I say, if I was him, he's such a talent. He can go anywhere he wants, really. But if he sticks to the Marlins, it's going to be it's just like the contract says. It's a long-term contract. You're going to be staying there through thick and thin, and